Good morning. Thank you, everyone. I have dropped into the chat links to be able to do your attendance for me. And here's also another way you can reach it if you would like to. We're going to be talking about that says the power of a sentence. That's a lie. We're talking about handwriting today. I didn't change that from another session that I did. But yes, we are doing handwriting today. So if you would, you can go into the chat and do your attendance real quickly. It just helps us see how our outreach is going and who all we're able to reach out to. All right. So today we are going to talk about handwriting in the elementary classroom and find out if it's important or not. Our agenda today is our theoretical models of writing and the why, the what, and the how of handwriting. So you will come away today with a few, our 1 hour is a short amount of time, but you're going to come away with a few practical things that you can do with handwriting in your students. So my name is Christy Barris. I am the project manager for elementary English language arts here at the State Department of Education in our Office of Standards and Learning, where we have all the content areas. And I've been doing this for about a year. I've been a teacher for 28 years, and I've been an instructional coach. And I've just been really enjoying this position and getting to deep dive into research on language arts and being able to bring training to you guys, and then starting next year working on our standards again. So I want to share a poll with you just to kind of get an indication of how you guys feel about handwriting instruction. So could someone let me know if you can see that poll? Just a thumbs up or a yes or okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so answer that poll for me so I can get a feel of how you think about handwriting instruction already. And can you see the results to that poll? This is the first time I've done a poll in Zoom, so I'm learning. All right, so it's looking that over 70% think handwriting is very important. You can't see the results. Okay, so let's give you a couple more seconds to get answers in. Looks like we have most in. 14 of you, or 74%, think handwriting is very important. 26% think it's somewhat important. And 5% are neutral. You could go either way about handwriting. So that's interesting for me. So I kind of know who I'm talking to today and how much I need to sell you on handwriting. So did you see them now? Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you for letting me know. All right, so let's dive in and figure out why this is important. Okay, so we're going to talk about theoretical models. If you were with me on Monday, you've already seen some of this, but we'll just go over it quickly. Yes, I will share the link for you. Hold on. There you go. So when we look at the simple view of writing, it's a multiplication equation that talks about the foundational skills of writing, such as letter formation, handwriting, what we're talking about today, spelling, punctuation, and spacing. And tomorrow I'm going to do a session on spelling. And then we add text generation with that. And that's like the actual writing process and all the things that go into actual writing. And when we multiply those together, we get a skilled writer. If one of these areas is low, then we will never be a skilled writer. So if a student doesn't know how to spell, they won't accomplish being a skilled writer. Or if they don't know how to handwrite, then they won't be a skilled writer. And it's notice it says handwriting and typing. I will touch briefly on the keyboarding and typing, but I won't spend much time there. And then if a student isn't good at this part, the text generation, again, they will not be a skilled writer because we know any number times 0 is 0. Or if it's times 1, it just stays the same. So if we have low area in one of these sides of this equation, then we don't have skilled writing. And so we're going to talk about the why of all this handwriting part. Again, in the writing rope, which I shared also the other day, you're going to see that each part of this rope is essential to creating a skilled writer. And the rope, part of the rope that we're going to talk about today is this transcription part right at the bottom, that orange rope, which is spelling and handwriting. And when I was instructional coaching, I saw a lot of teaching on the other parts of the rope, but kids were still struggling with the spelling and handwriting. So that's one reason I decided to focus on that a little bit this year. And also at a national conference I attended, this was a big area that a lot of our researchers in the field of English language arts are coming back to and focusing on, because we're seeing some decline in writing over the years. At the last report I saw was only 25% of our fourth grade students nationwide are proficient writers. So that's not a good enough percentage in my book. I think that we can do some things to help them do better. Okay, so we're going to try something and we're going to write, and I have a task for you. So you're going to need a pencil and a piece of paper. I'll give you a second to find it, because I really need everyone to do this activity, because we're going to get an idea of how it feels for our students when they're writing. So I'll give you a second to get your writing materials. All right, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to listen to all the instructions before you begin writing. Okay, you have to listen to all the instructions. I'm going to give them all to you. You're going to write 3 sentences about your favorite food. Don't start yet. 3 sentences about your favorite food. Come on. It's not wanting to go. There we go. You're going to write it with your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you have to use your left hand. If you're left-handed, you have to use your right hand. So you're going to write 3 sentences about your favorite food with your non-dominant hand. But wait, there's more. You cannot use the letter R, okay? Because you don't know how to make the letter R, so you can't use that letter. And you have to make sure you have your capitals and periods. And you need a 2-syllable word. Oh, sorry. Okay, so there's your instructions. I'm going to give you, now we got to get going because we don't have a lot of time for this. So this, handwriting, we got to go fast with this writing stuff. So I need you to write 3 sentences with your non-dominant hand. Can't use the letter R. You don't know how to make it yet. Capitalization, punctuation needs to be there. And I want a 2-syllable word. So I'm going to give you a minute to write this. All right. How did we do? How did we do? Let's reflect on it a little bit. How did that make you feel? Drop in the chart in the chat. I mean, how did you feel having to write with your non-dominant hand? Couldn't use letter R. You got to think about all this stuff. How did it feel? Drop in the chat. You chat. Why do I want to call it a chant? Awkward, incompetent. It's hard. I was frustrated. Somebody thought it was funny. I did this with a group of college students once. I literally had one girl going, ha ha, I can do it. And she was being all fancy. And another girl was actually crying because she could not do it. So that's where our students feel when handwriting is hard. And it was hard to read. Would you guys want to spend a lot of time writing with this level of, with how you felt? Would you want to spend a lot of time writing when you felt this way? Drop no. Rachel says no, I would not. She was my hard no. It's not as easy finding words without R. So think about how kiddos feel when they don't know how to make a particular letter and they're trying to think of another way to write a word. We wouldn't want to write very much or very often if it was this much of a struggle every time we sat down to write. And this is often how our young learners feel. So the second question was what was challenging, and a lot of you have already put out, you had to think differently. It was backwards to you. You had to think of words that didn't have the letter you didn't know. It's just very challenging, and that's how our students feel. And sometimes we don't realize why something is so hard for kiddos until we put ourselves in some sort of assimilation to help us feel that way as well. So what would, I didn't put this in, but I want you to drop, uh, Brandy, it would help, yeah, to, if you, trying to do something you do right-handed for someone who's left-handed. And that was an area too that I had trouble helping students that were left-handed because I'm very right-handed. I can do nothing with this hand. So yes, it's an area of struggle. I forgot what question. I had a new question I was going to ask you and it left my brain, but if it comes back, I'll say it, you know. Um, did this help you relate to your students and how they feel? So thank you for dropping it into the chat. Yes. And maybe it can help you think of ways that you can scaffold for children. And we expect them to do a lot when they're little bitty. So in kindergarten, even pre-K, in kindergarten and first grade and second grade, we really want to focus on getting this part of the transitional standards down. We have to spend time doing it. And we're going to talk about that today. So I was hearing from people that, well, and we don't even have to teach handwriting anymore, but it is in the state standards. It's been there since 2016, I know for sure. And this is what you see as the handwriting standards. In pre-K, they need to write some letters. General rule of thumb is 18 letters. Kindergarten, we want them to write their name in most letters. Most kindergarten teachers want all of the letters. And I know my pre-K grandchildren can already write their name and some letters. First and second grade, we're going to write letters, words, and sentences with correct spacing and directionality. And then in third and fifth grade, through fifth grade, we want print and cursive. And so we're going to talk a little bit about all of this as we go through today. Okay, so let's talk about the why. Well, we already kind of know a little bit of the why after our activity, but it also really activates the brain when students are doing handwriting. So as you see, here's a picture of the brain, and all the different parts of the brain have different purposes when it comes to our reading, the reading brain. And one part that is activated when we do handwriting is this area that's highlighted in red. And look, I can't say it, left fusiform gyrus, something like that. But it's hitting different parts of the brain here and activating letter and word recognition. It's also activating word analysis when we're doing handwriting. But there's more areas also highlighted, the anterior frontal area, this blue area, and that's where our speech and sounds are activated. So the brain is also activated there during handwriting instruction. And then this area here. which is our word analysis as well. So as you can see, many areas of the brain that help us read are activated when we're doing handwriting. And so it is not an isolated skill. Handwriting is essential to reading and writing as well. What does research say? Well, there's been dozens and dozens of research strategies. This is from Steve Graham's work. I put that there if you want to look that up. Have found that done right, and we're going to learn some ways to do that, early handwriting instruction improves students' writing. Not just legibility, but it's quantity and quality. Okay, so let's talk about that just real briefly. I used to think my handwriting instruction was to give them a paper that had all the letters and they wrote it and they wrote it and they wrote it. And that's all I really did. We were just trying to get neat and get it on the page right. But research supports that it's not just about being neat and getting it to look pretty on the page. While that is important, it also activates the brain in order to make students be able to read better, but also their quality and quantity of work is better. Think about your 3 sentences about your favorite food. After your first sentence of a struggle, you were probably ready to stop. The quantity and the quality were probably less because you wrote fewer words than you probably would have written if you had your dominant hand and you could do all the regular writing that you're used to doing. It makes a difference when you can't write legibly or you have trouble forming letters or spelling words. Your writing quality will suffer. Handwriting instruction just reduces the cognitive load for students. Fluent transcription, or handwriting and spelling is transcription, frees up the cognitive resources students need for ideal generation. So if you were there Monday, we learned with my session Monday, we learned how much it takes for a student just to write one sentence. And so if we're having to think about our handwriting, we're not going to have that cognitive load to be able to generate the ideas we need for writing. And both legible handwriting and fluent handwriting benefit composition in early grades. The motor skills necessary for letter formation is considerable. And this is also from Graham and Weinstraub. All right, so we can see that it would reduce our cognitive load. And so why? There's cognitive and academic benefits to teaching handwriting. It enhances memory and comprehension. It supports reading and spelling and increases our writing fluency and idea generation. So a little bit of handwriting goes a long way toward reading and writing. Handwriting instruction isn't about just trying to have a pretty or perfect paper, but it's about automatizing that letter formation and word formations to free up that working memory for the idea management necessary for good writing. So it reduces the frustration and it improves engagement. It's pretty important. So handwriting and literacy integration, we want to integrate, we don't want to isolate. This picture on the right was how I taught handwriting. It's still okay to teach handwriting that way, but we have to add something to it. And that's what we'll talk about today. But we want it to be integrated throughout our subject areas. We can be using handwriting to support spelling and encoding. When we're teaching our spelling lessons, that's a time that we can give some handwriting instruction. We can talk about the proper letter formation. We'll talk about that a little bit. There's just, we want to just teach it in conjunction. We want writing to happen everywhere because we don't have big blocks of time for it. So we want it to happen everywhere so handwriting can be integrated during that time. So don't isolate it to one part of your day. All right, I need some responses from you. Oh, I love what Tanya said. I spent so much time thinking about how I was going to write that I couldn't focus on what to write. That's right. So I want you to drop in a comment in the chat. If you had, just from what we've talked about in this last few minutes, if you had to explain to someone why handwriting was important, what would you say? just a short sentence. And you can use any hand you want and the letter R. Yes, good job. Thank you, Kathy. Because we do have some colleagues that think handwriting isn't important anymore. So what would we say to try to convince them? It helps us share our knowledge and reflect our knowledge. They have to go together to be better readers. When it becomes, I like that one too, Jessica. When it's automatic, it frees up that working memory. If students can write letters without thinking, they have the brain power to think about writing. Very good. Letter sounds and decoding equal reading fluency. Handwriting automaticity equals writing fluency. Thank you, Shannon. All of your answers are great. It needs to be consistent and not just a drill. I think I've kind of alluded to that a couple of times, Brittany. Brandy, handwriting is a method mode of communication as the language we speak. Yes, it's our voice on paper. Writing is for communication. And okay, so I don't know if I have this later, but I'll just touch real briefly on this. Keyboarding is also a form of written communication, and we need to teach that as well. However, there is more brain activation with handwriting than with keyboarding. It activates the different parts of the brain. I think it's some motor skills that it takes to form the letters. So that was interesting to me. Okay, so now let's just quickly look at what to teach when we're teaching handwriting. So let's spend just a few minutes on, should I teach a manuscript? Should I teach cursive? Why? And really there is not a really good base of research for which one is best. In our state standards, we learn both. Most schools, states, curriculums say pre-K 1 is manuscript, and 2 through up is cursive. However, I always still was teaching manuscript when I taught second grade. And maybe that last month of school, we would touch a little bit on cursive because they wanted to really bad. But, and I know back when I was in school in Oklahoma, it was fourth grade before we learned cursive. But it takes 2 years to get fluent in one of those forms. So a manuscript writer, it takes 2 years to get fluent in writing manuscript, and it takes 2 years to get fluent in writing cursive, making it automatic. So we don't want to teach them at the same time. So if we're teaching explicitly on manuscript, then we want to make sure our kids are getting all the practice. There is some research to support that students who have learning disabilities in reading benefit from cursive handwriting. And so there is research that support that. So some schools that are working on with kids who have language disabilities and reading disabilities do just teach cursive. So if you've heard that cursive is better for dyslexia and things like that, there is research that supports that claim. But there isn't one that's better than the other. And I saw something so interesting. It said that when you're stressed and writing in a hurry, you're going to go to the way that is most automatic for you. And do you see people who mix it? There was a preacher at our church, and when he wrote on the board, he had cursive letters and manuscript letters all mixed up. And so I was thinking back to that, I thought, well, maybe he just couldn't decide, he was good at both of them. But anyway, manuscript is generally what we start teaching with because it aligns with the printed text and it's easier for students to read for early readers. But cursive adds fluency to our writing, makes it faster, and it reduces letter reversals. So that's the reason that it's supported for kids with difficulties, because it can help with those reversals. So that's really the extent of what I could find to support one over the other. So that would be a decision that you could make according to your students. So there are some key components to handwriting instruction, and it's these three things. We teach letter formation and spacing, pencil grip and posture, and speed and legibility. So not too much going on there. Pencil grip is super important. You can't form letters if you can't control your pencil. So it's very important that our pencil grip is good. And here is a video of how to hold your pencil. Now, I will need someone to let me know if you can hear it. I'm praying that it works, but let me see. Y'all said no. Okay, so we're not going to show it, but I'm going to see if it'll let me bring it forward here. And okay, do you see? This is a video you can actually show your students, and it shows them how to lay their pencil on the paper, how to pick it up and flip it over. And they have this little mouth drawn on his hand to help him see. There's the eye at the top and the little mouth to help them see how to hold the pencil. And this is a kid who's teaching other kids how to hold that pencil correctly. It is in your resources that I shared with you. Yes, it will be in that resource document, Shalina, and I dropped it in again. It's called Handwriting in, let's see, it's the last one on the resource list is that particular video. And there's also in my links some warm-ups that you can do with students before you begin teaching handwriting. So it's like they have two pencils and they do some rolling activities and they do some things to warm up the muscles in the hand. Because have you had kids go, my hand hurts when you're doing handwriting, and I'd have them shake it out. But there are exercises you can do with kids. There's some videos by OTs, and they teach them how to warm up those muscles and develop those muscles. I thought that would be a real helpful thing for our kids. Okay, so another thing is paper position. When we have kids start writing, we need them to clear that desk off. There needs to be room for elbows. We don't want piles of books all around. And look here at this image. See how that paper is folded at the bottom corner? That is a way to fold that paper, and then they can line their paper up with the edge of their desk, and that gets the position of the paper correct. Another suggestion was to put this V of electrical tape or some kind of tape where they know where to put the corner of their paper to position it. So I just put it on that corner because of the image I had, but I would play with it if I was doing that with students to find where would be the best position for that. I thought it was cool too, Brandy, because it helps them know where to get started. And sometimes when we move the paper for them, they'll just move it right back, but having something there for them to guide it themselves. And we generally want both of the arms up on the desk, because I know I saw this first picture a lot. They want to lay down while they write. And it's really important that they have the good posture, because if they write in a lazy kind of laying down manner, it really puts strain on their shoulder, back, arms, and wrist muscles. So again, we want them developing that posture that helps them have the correct posture of holding that pencil. Do we have to differentiate left and right handed? I would. Yeah, if I had a left-handed student, I think you would tilt it the other direction. Yes, I would, Shannon. All right. Here's also, this is in your resources as well. Here's a simple poster from WOW, Watch Our Writing, of how to teach children to sit correctly when they begin to write, how to hold their paper, how to position their paper, all the things. Your feet are on the floor. And my hardest thing was getting kids to sit up. They just didn't want to sit up. So those were some things that we needed to make sure that we're teaching explicitly. And it's a great thing for back to school time, right? New class, new teacher. And here, this is how we sit when we write. this is how we hold our body. This is how we hold our pencil. Let's watch these fun videos. Let's warm up our hands. And then we're ready to go. In your session resources, there's also 30 fun handwriting activities for all ages. I just linked that in there because there were some fun things, but we only had an hour together, so I couldn't do all the things. So I shared some of those. And there's also a Steve Graham article and some of the things in all of these resources are things I've pulled and stuck into our presentation today, parts of them anyway. So how do we do this? How do we do it? Well, students who receive direct explicit instruction show more growth in reading and spelling than students who have not had such instruction. And so I thought this was interesting. Research indicates that 42% of the variability in the quality of student writing in 4th and 6th grade is associated with handwriting speed. And their handwriting speed increases all the way through 9th grade. By 9th grade, they're pretty much topped out on how they're going to develop in handwriting. But get this, and I didn't know, but this works for me, and I didn't know why, but now I do. Even college students who take notes by hand learn the material more effectively than those who type it or record it. So there's something about that handwriting that makes us remember better. And when I was in college, I went to a pretty, I was in Texas when I graduated high school, and I went to a pretty crummy school in Texas. It was not a good school. They taught me nothing about college or how to take notes, or my own children learned all the stuff. I didn't know how to take notes when I went to college, but I just copied everything. I just copied it over, and then I, would pass my test. So there's some research behind it I didn't know. But handwriting in the modern world, I posted that into your resources. It's an article that shares more about that information. So we want to be modeling legible formation of letters. It's when I was an instructional coach, I'd go into classrooms and I would see teachers writing in all capital on the board, or I would see teachers not there. I'll show you monkey letters in a minute, but their G's were sitting on the line. They weren't hanging below. And as teachers, we need to be the model of legible formation of letters. It might take us practicing, but we need to be neat when we're sharing with students. We need to be doing the good modeling. We have to lead through guided practice, and then we can give them independent practice to see how they're doing. Shalina, you thought you were a weirdo. Yeah, I used to get teased in staff meetings because I would take notes, and it was just how I can pay attention and remember. I never read them again, but it just helped me remember. Yeah, you're not a goo. You're just using research and you just didn't even know it. Okay, so practice and integration. Kids need about 10 to 15 minutes of daily practice. I used my document camera as well. And now they have all those smart TVs that you can actually stand up there and write and model too. So those are all great. We want to combine reading and spelling together, that integration again. And explicit instruction just ensures that you have consistency across and efficiency. And you are going to use multi-sensory ways to get kids involved in engaging that brain. And you can provide just teaching them how to do note-taking for written expression and giving timely feedback. My second graders, our science program was all video-based. So I would give them a clipboard and a piece of paper, and they had to take notes during the video. Anytime we watched a video in class, I had them taking notes. They were being college students. They thought they were so fancy. And even if they got to write down just 1 or 2 words, they were making that connection between writing, listening, and reading and learning. So it was just a great way to get them involved and really listening into the video. Something else, well, no, I don't want to go there. Okay, sorry. So in your guide, we're going to talk about feedback a little bit more. So I skipped that one. In your guide, I've shared the best practices for handwriting. This came from our Heroes team. here at the state, and they shared this with me. And you can look at that. It gives you tips of how to help struggling handwriters. It's like a checklist of all the things you need to think about as you're doing handwriting. So I wanted to make sure you got that. And it is in your session links, best practices, and there's a bit.ly for that up there. So be sure to take some time to look at that and print it out, share it with your friends, because it's just a really great checklist of all the things to think about. All right, so let's talk about feedback. Now, I have been that teacher who walked around and said, good job, like it, good job, you got it, nice, nice, try again. Okay, I just said all that to you. Do you know what I said that was nice? No. What do you need to try again? I don't know. She just said try again. She just said I'm nice. I don't know. But praise needs to be very specific, and feedback needs to be very specific. So we can praise a good job, and then we can instruct to make changes. So here's the example. Good job. All your letters are on the baseline. I can see you're working carefully to form the letters correctly. So now this kid knows, hey, I don't have any letters flying through the air in the purple underwear. They're all sitting on the line. I'm doing a great job. And it's there. So, or good job putting a finger space between each word. Okay, so I said that, and oh, little Freddie over here, he forgot to leave a finger space, and I look over, he's erasing and making a finger space because he heard. And so when you're giving that kind of praise out loud, people around are also hearing that instruction. It's an extra boost for your instruction by giving praise that's specific. Same with instructional feedback. Whoops, remember to look for the one. That's where you start when making a letter. If they're doing one of those worksheets and they're tracing them upside down, remember to start at the one and go down. So that directionality is very important when they're forming letters. So those are just an example of how to give that feedback. I have a message from, I'm not sure how to say your name, but Miss Yeager. Our school encourages us to use dry erase pads with handwriting lines to teach handwriting. When they're pretty new to even learn to holding a pencil, is it better to use dry erase markers or sticks with pencils to teach the grip, or fat pencils and crayons? That's coming up, okay? So hang on, and if I don't answer your question, post it again, okay? But I think I'm about to get there. All right, so we want to do some hand strengthening activities for our littles. That little dude is so cute. Hand strengthening activities, I had those videos linked for you, or just any kind of Play-Doh, big chunky chalk. So for Ms. Yeager, for our little kiddos, we want things, those big things are good. Golf pencils are very helpful for pencil grip because they're shorter and they're forced to use the better pencil grip. So sometimes those little golf pencils are the best thing for early writers. They need a lot of it. I think dry erase markers are fine, but they also need pencil time as well. But we want to just develop those motor skills by doing different hand strengthening type activities. When we're teaching a letter, I'm going to share these worksheets with you guys here in a minute, but when we're teaching a letter, we want to make sure that we're focusing on the shape of the letter, the name of the letter, the order, like the alphabetical order, plus also the order of how we form it, and the sound of the letter. So I'm going to show you that here in a minute. Now, there is a website. We're not going to take time to go there, but please go there in your own time. There is a whole handwriting. Iowa has made this whole handwriting. It's just also in your links, where you can take a course. It didn't take long. I did it in less than an hour. A course on handwriting, how to teach it. And then there's handwriting videos, handwriting worksheets. They have 3 different methods that they teach handwriting with this literacy lifters. And so they have all the worksheets, all the things there. So if your school doesn't have something that you can use, this is a great resource for someone who doesn't have anything else. And we've got permission to share. They also have a scope and sequence. It's important that when you're teaching handwriting and letters, and most of our curriculums have already done this, but we're grouping by the way that they're formed, just so that we're learning each stroke in conjunction with letters that make that stroke. So that's just a quick scope. That is from Literacy Lifters, but there's lots of sequences out there. Multisensory approach is really important. There is some research behind taking your arm. I'd have them put it under the elbow, the other hand under the elbow, and writing with your whole body and your arm. That helps activate parts of the brain that help make that stick in the brain. You're always going to teach them to start at the right place on the line and keep that pencil on the paper until it's time to cross or dot. We won't want them drawing letters. We want them writing letters. And a lot of kids can draw them, but without that fluidity, it's not making the right connections for them. And we want to be saying that letter name and sound as we're making that letter. So here's an example of the verbal cues. So I would say, and you can do this with cursive and print. Oh, there was also questions about, should I teach lowercase and uppercase together? Should I teach them separately? And I don't have a good answer for that. We usually taught the lowercase first because they were used more often. But if it had similar shape to it, then we would teach the capital as well. I think it might just depend on your curriculum that you're using. And if you're not using a curriculum, then, you could use some of these resources. We have to teach them to form that letter and not draw it. So direct instruction on the formation is important. And we want them also to be written by memory, not always using a scaffold. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So and again, it's really crucial to be integrating those sounds as we're making those letters. The handwriting in the modern world has more information on this. I got this from letters. When this is just a routine for teaching a new letter, you're going to model how, and you have the hat is the top line, the belt is the middle line, and the foot is the baseline, or you could put a boot. Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird to have a hat on, but no shoes. So you could put a shoe or a boot instead, whatever floats your boat. And that helps kids visualize how tall and how short, because my kiddos would have a hard time keeping the letter below the dotted line. And so having that belt line there is helpful. You're going to always model it together. And then we want our students to write at least 5 and circle their best one. That self-evaluation of finding your best one is important. I like that too. Sky, fence, and ground. I'm sure there's lots of different ways we could do it. I haven't seen that one, Leslie. Thank you. Whichever is fun for your class, but having them circle their best one. And I used to say, letters are not lazy. I mean, letters are lazy. They always want to sit on that line. They're just so lazy. And then I would say, oh, no, your letter's flying through the air and it's purple underwear. Remember, it sits on the line. Whatever you can do to help them think about where their spacing is. So if you have letters, this is in Unit 3, Session 4, if you want to read more about that. This was one of my favorite things to do. I don't know if I made it up or stole it from somebody who knows. It was 30 years ago, but I did monkey letters. And monkey letters were those letters that had a tail. And I have never seen a monkey sitting on top of its tail because its tail hangs below the line. So when I'm going to stand up here, when we would body spell, our tall letters were tall, our short letters were at our waist, and then I had my hands swinging down like this for monkey letters. And so G, J, P, Q, and Y, they never sit on their tails. So that was helpful with my littles to remember to make those lines. So when I'd walk by, it's like, ooh, your G's sitting on its tail, and they'd erase it and put it down below. So just some little fun things to try. Here is an activity from Handwriting Without Tears, the wet, dry, try. Students can use a sponge or a paintbrush. Remember, we can use all different kinds of things to build those muscles. And they can trace a letter, they can dry it off, and then write it with chalk. So that's a way to do it. They can write letters in sand, salt trays, shaving cream. I know you pre-K and kinder teachers do all of this, but even with second grade, when the desks were getting dirty, third grade too, when the desks were getting dirty, I got out the shaving cream and we did handwriting and shaving cream that day. And then we cleaned off that desk and we sparkled and we smelled great. And then using those large motions that we already talked about are some strategies to try. Copy, cover, and compare is in the article, I don't know if I included that one, how we should teach handwriting. Oh, it's in Literacy Lifters from Iowa. We're going to cover the model letter so it's out of sight, copy it from memory, and then compare it to the model. So if they had a sheet, and I believe at this website, they have these sheets that you can print off already where they cover it, copy it, and compare it. Another strategy is similar, trace, copy, cover, closed. I kind of like this one. You have your tracing sheet, they trace the letter and they're making that sound. They look at the model and they copy it, they cover it, and without looking, they write it. And then they close their eyes and write it with their eyes closed. So we're getting that motor memory going there. So I think all of those are just a fun little variation on the same thing, but it doesn't get us boring that way. And it's also important that they're monitoring themselves and you're monitoring. I I was guilty of having that stack of handwriting papers that I never looked at. And really, handwriting instruction, we need feedback in the moment. Getting the paper back later means nothing to those kiddos. We need to be fixing those pencil grips right now. We need to be walking around and helping them in the moment. And I know that's hard with a lot of kids. So maybe we need to think of a way that we can hit this group today and that group tomorrow. But it's really hard to unlearn something when you've learned it the wrong way. So it's more important to try to get it right at the beginning. One of my years, I did my handwriting instruction at my small group table during morning work. I would call 4 or 5 kids back and we did it that way. And that was my best year for handwriting when I could do it that way. But then that class could read. So then you get classes that can't read and you need to be doing other stuff, at the back table. But using rubrics to let students assess their own writing or each other's is also a fun way. And we always, always want them to identify their best one of the day or of that time and tell me why it's my best one. This is my best one because it's sitting on the line and my stick is from the hat to the foot and my circle is under the belt line. And so we want them to be able to say why that is their best one. And then we need them to be able to correct their mistakes when they see mistakes. And so sometimes they get frustrated when we ask them to try again. So keeping it 10 to 15 minutes, we don't want to spend a whole long time on this. And we have to give them that time to self-monitor, to set goals for themselves. Goal setting for yourself is really research-based into making kids grow and reach higher levels of achievement when they set goals. Rewriting, and how fun would it be to record and graph their correct letter formation? Some schools are required to do data notebooks. This would be an easy one to graph, and they could color them in on an alphabet chart even as they do it. I went to one pre-K classroom and she had their pictures up on the board and there were levels of, so I think it was 1 through 5, 5 through 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 26. And so as they learned letters of the alphabet, they got to move their picture up the chart. And every time I went in that room, there was kids that would grab me and pull me over to show me where they were down here and now they're up here because now I can write this many letters. So it was really fun to see how they really engage in their own learning this way. Help for the striving. We always have the striving. Arrangement of the classroom is important. We want them to have that room to write. We don't want them to be too crowded. What, Shalina, what did you want me to add to the resource? Go ahead and type that in for me and I'll keep going. Coordinate with your OT-PT. The OT helped me a lot with students who were struggling. They were able to guide me on what we needed to use for pencil grips. The triangular pencil grips are really good. They're good for kiddos, from what I could tell, from what I read, and some of these articles have more information on pencil grips. We need to make sure we spend time with our striving kiddos on those difficult letters and the reversals. And there's a list of those letters that we find difficult. Oh, I don't know if I have that. I just, it was in her classroom, but I'll see what I can find, Shalina, and then I'll add that. Keyboarding, we spoke on that a little bit. It is important that, I mean, I made my own children take keyboarding in junior high because I wasn't going to type their college papers for them. You know, they needed to know how. It is important for kids to learn keyboarding. And we start that usually pretty young because now all our state testing, everything's on devices. They need to know how to keyboard as well. But we don't want to do keyboarding in, exclude handwriting. There needs to be instruction in both. We got to be positive about it. So they're struggling. We got to make it a positive, find something good. And handwriting is a great way to involve parents because it's something parents can understand and do. I know they like to do spelling, but they also, handwriting is something that I've never had a parent push back and say they don't understand on how to help with handwriting. So you want to create a system of monitoring for your students. How are you going to know where they are? And to me, just some quick active monitoring is a great way. I have a clipboard with the alphabet going through and just making notes as you're watching kids and walking around. And when you see a struggle, stop then and model for them again. So to try to keep that from learning it the wrong way. And then you might not need to support Rebecca for very long because she's really got it, but maybe Christy needs a lot of extra help. So you're flexible in your support. And reversals happen a lot. We don't worry about it too much until after mid-second grade, but we don't want to go, oh, your B is backwards. We just say, oh, remember, turn that B around, and just be real neutral about it and not make them stressed out about it, but always point it out. Oh, that's, flip that around, and that's really all you need to do because they probably realize that they're struggling with that a bit. My own granddaughter, she's very, very intelligent. All of them are brilliant, of course, because they're my grandchildren, but this one really is kind of smart. And she even had to do this a lot to help her remember. And sometimes I noticed when she was in kindergarten, she drew a bed on the top of her paper so she could remember which way to make her B and D. So they know when they're struggling with something a lot of time. Oh, that was a lot of information really fast. Our time is almost out. All right. So in the chat, don't put your answer in until I count down, but I want you to write in the chat, but don't press enter. What strategy would you like to incorporate? Or if you didn't see anything here today that you thought would really help you, put something you've done in. And when I count down, you're going to hit enter and we're going to see everybody's takeaways for today. All right, so go ahead and write that. Spelling City allows you to create handwriting sheets using the word list you create. It has print and cursive. Great idea. I like that, Cherry. Thank you. And then that iOS website has tons of sheets for you guys. Do the course and look at the sheets and you can learn a lot. Okay. I'm going to count down and then everybody's going to share their response. 3, 2, 1, enter. Monkey letters. I like monkey letters. Posture. Ooh, I love it. Okay, let's look at some of these. Tanya, if you don't mind, tell me, unmute and tell me what you took away that's going to help with special education readers, because I'm always interested in how to help them better.
I liked the tape on the desk idea because I really struggled with that one. I mean, I learned several things, but the tape
Hmm.
and folding the paper, oh my word, that was like, whoa, wow. That fixed all my problems.
Well,
It,
great.
the left hand thing, I had to do that one time. I remember doing that and I just kind of forgotten. I thought, I need to just sit down about once a week and write with my left hand just so I don't forget, how hard that is. So
Yeah, even cutting with scissors and stuff. But your OT can help a lot with these with
yeah,
the left-handed stuff as well. I I use my speech therapist all the time when working with readings in anything language, and I used my OT all the time for anything to do with
yeah,
writing. So
you have a wonderful OT. I have a good situation. So thank you so much. I learned a lot.
yeah,
Thank you.
great, great. All right. Someone like the scheduling. Yeah, the OT is really helpful because they don't always, it's really hard to get kids referred for OT, but they are very helpful. Almost, I have never met one that wasn't willing to come and give me ideas. One gave me a bunch of handwriting pages, paper, special paper for kids who were struggling, and all the things. Monkey letters were fun, proper position and circling their best, trace and copy and cover, progress monitoring. Yes, we have to progress monitor everything, unfortunately. Yes, fifth grade, you might think it's too late, but they're still becoming fluent, even up until ninth grade. And if a fifth grader can't write, can't print or do cursive, either one, is something they need to learn. Immediate feedback, more instruction, the warm-up exercises. Yeah, okay, guys, thank you. This really helps me know what's helpful to you too. My brother was a southpaw, and the teacher taught him how to write by sitting across from him. Oh, that's brilliant. Then she wrote, that is brilliant. I would never thought of that. Making it a priority, the flexible groups, yes, and proper pencil grip. Okay, let me talk about, oh, I got to go for you guys, but let me talk about proper pencil grip. It is a bit flexible because as we write over time, we do change our grip a little bit. And this pencil grip is best for having your muscles not get too fatigued and stuff like that. But you'll see people like this. You'll see people different ways that can still write fluently. So as students get older, pencil grips might adjust and change. If you look at your own pencil grip, yours might be slightly different, but if you can still be a fluent writer, it's okay. We don't want to see this. This is not ever going to be fluent for kids that think how your paper is just going to even move around. So, but it's hard to correct it after first grade. It's really hard for us to correct pencil grips. So you guys who teach little guys, it would be great to see that. My grandchildren all just naturally did it. We don't know. We didn't teach it to them, and we were shocked that they could do it. But um, I think it's just because it's comfortable. And then using those golf pencils. See, the golf pencils are short, so you have to rest it on this finger with those little golf pencils. So that's another way that's real helpful. All right, my friends, you guys have been a great participators today. And just quickly, I like to go over my objectives when I finish. We did talk about some theoretical models and the why, what, and how. And then you've got that presentation there. So here is a great little activity you can do with students at the end of a lesson too. But about handwriting, I used to think, but now I think, so you don't have to share that with me, but think about how you used to feel about handwriting instruction and what do you think about it now? And what are some things that you're going to apply? And you guys have already kind of shared that with me. But that's another great little thing to do with kiddos as an exit ticket. You don't see the presentation. It shows I'm still sharing. Odd. Well, we're just about done. So I need you to do feedback for me. I do read it and I do make changes to my presentations according to what you suggest. And there's also a place to give us feedback on what other kinds of sessions you would like to have. And you'll get your certificate for today if you complete this survey. It's also in your links. Let me get this into the chat as well, so you can just click on it and do your feedback for me quickly. And oh, well, I think that'll still work. And then when you get your certificate, you are welcome to have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you spending some morning time with me. I've enjoyed getting to share about handwriting. Tomorrow, I'm going to do one on spelling. So I would love to have you all come back if you would like. And let me share those resources again with you. I'm going to drop that in as well. There's the bit.ly for the survey, and here are the links to the resources. And then I was going to look for some kind of, I don't have an image or information on that bulletin board, but I'll see if I can find something for our friend who wanted to see that. And I'll drop it into this handwriting webinar links if I find it. So go ahead and give me your feedback. Feel free to contact me anytime that you have questions or want to bounce ideas. I love to talk all things reading, writing, and education. There is my contact information if you can see it. Feedback's not working for you, Jessica. I'm sorry. If you will email me, I'm putting it in that document. I will send you a certificate. Anybody who can't get their certificate, just email me. I dropped it in our resource link, and I will email a certificate to you. Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat too. And you guys can email me if your link is not working. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it shouldn't have been doing that, but yeah, just email me. I'll send you your certificate.